everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast where we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate The Last Jedi, one dramatic minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I'm Jackie Kashian from JackieKashian.com, and it's so funny because we've been doing these all week, and by the end of it, you're just like, what am I? Oh, yeah, who am I? Anyway, so yay!
Where am I from?
Picture that feeling, but 7 years worth of that.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you're wrapping up the week here with us for minute number 15 of The Last Jedi. Minute 15 starts off with a very slight flashback as Rey stands before a cloaked figure on Ahch-To. And it ends a minute later with Rey wandering a strange village in search of Luke Skywalker.
How did I miss the cloaked figure? Really?
He's very tiny.
Was it a tiny cloaked figure?
Mm-hmm. Well, from our vantage point, because we're very far away. But anyway, it's Luke Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
That guy.
Well, but it's so weird because essentially the first shot that I have in that minute is essentially just a shot down the valley of her walking up it. Is that?
Yeah, it's
sure.
But it's from the cloak perspective. Is that what I'm missing?
Well, it's a weird kind of. I wonder how much of this is what I was trying to go and compare because it's almost exactly the same scene that's happening. The action is the same as the end of The Force Awakens. I went back. It's minute 127 of The Force Awakens. If you're watching along at home, and that I was looking to kind of compare and contrast, and I'm wondering how much, because I think that they did when they were finishing up filming The Force Awakens, that they were like, hey, Ryan, you're going to pick this up from here. Do you want to come check out what we're doing? Check out the end of it. And so I think that this was, Rian Johnson was on set to be like, okay, so it ends here, and then we'll in a couple months, we're going to start up again. Leave everything where it is. Don't clean up. But it is slightly different. It was more of a kind of a cloaked reveal in The Force Awakens, and here we kind of, because we already know the reveal has already been made. It's her walking up towards him.
Okay.
And it's slightly different. Because at the end of The Force Awakens, she is kind of like tentative, very kind of like hesitant and reaching out to hold out the lightsaber, pointing it kind of straight at him, which is a no-no with a lightsaber. We all know that.
And she's very emotional. She's very seems to be on the verge of breaking down in the Force Awakens version.
This is like all that she's been kind of, built up to. This is her quest. Is ending.
Maybe the end of the last movie and the last scene, and this scene is like one of those old man on the mountain jokes where she worked all the way up to the top, and then he just threw her away, and then this is her like that snail coming back 4 days later, finally making it again to the top to offer it to him, and he's like, fine. No? You guys, old man on the mountain joke? Okay.
Don't know that joke.
There's the joke about that. It's better told with a snail. There's a guy's walking up and he hears a knock at the door, and he opens the door, and on the ground there's a snail. He picks up the snail and whips it, and like 3 months later there's a knock at the door, and he opens the door. It's a very long joke, by the way. He opens the door, the snail's there again, and the snail goes, "Why'd you do that?" Anyway, so it's literally some version of that joke.
Right.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe Luke had just thrown her back into the ocean, and this was her second attempt.
Or that
would be. She's like sopping wet.
Yeah. There's a different guy.
That would have been funny, because I will say that when she hands him the lightsaber, and then he grabs it with his phalanges, his weird mechanical phalanges, and then he's holding it. The joke is kind of given away by the music.
Right, because the music kind of disappears for a little bit.
Yeah, the music kind of it cuts off a little abruptly, and then he tosses it over his shoulder, and but that you were just like, no, why would you do that, musician? Why don't you just let that Once you let the timing on that could have been slightly.
Well,
but that's so much minutia. It's because we're looking at this damn thing 1 minute at a time.
It's true.
That I have any criticism at all because I love that scene.
It could be, you could have turned the music down expecting him to turn it on, maybe, or something like that. It could be building up to like, oh, turn down the music, and he goes, but no, he turned down the music, and he's like, throws it behind him. But
we make these.
When the music dips like that, you do get a good chance to hear his mechanical hand whirring, which is not always. It's only when you need to hear it that we hear it, which is like, it would be funny if it's just in normal scenes. He's standing there talking to Leia on the bridge at the Return of the Jedi, saying like, the Force is strong in my family, but it's like in the background.
Can you turn that down? Could you turn down your hand, Luke?
Stop moving your hand. Stop fiddling. Stop. I can't hear you. Just stop moving your hand. Just hold it. Just hold it still, Luke.
Right, because like if he had a nervous tick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is
you
that
get a great
bantha
close-up
stick? Yep.
of his robot hand. That I do like that close-up of it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Is that a bantha stick on her? Is she still carrying her bantha stick? What is her weapon on her shoulder?
It's a staff we saw her with in the last one.
Yeah, it seems to be just kind of put together out of parts that she
Friar
found.
Tuck kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
But so when she does offer him the lightsaber here, in this one, she's holding it kind of sideways. So at the end of Force Awakens, she's holding it straight out, like you shouldn't, and then here she's kind of holding it off sideways to, I guess, make a better handoff. I don't know, but it's interesting that it's slightly different. Which, that's fine. You can do that in a movie. Yep. You're allowed.
I guess so.
Doesn't affect the continuity, but I noticed that was interesting. That it's not exactly, it's not stuff that they filmed from that. They went and reconstructed this shot so they could then progress from there.
So which one is real?
Depends on, I guess, what you believe.
And your point of view.
Or going back to Jackie's snail joke, I think that the first time she held it out straight forward, and then he was like, "You don't hold it out straight forward," and he threw her off the mountain.
Right.
It's like, don't run with scissors.
It's like having your wand in your back pocket. You're gonna blow off your butt.
Exactly.
Mad Eye Moody. I'm here all week, you guys, with weird, just 1,000 other references. So
now, Mad Eye Moody was, of course, played by Brendan Gleeson, who is the father of Domhnall Gleeson, Armitage Hux.
Oh my God!
See, it's all connected.
This is Peter. Peter at work, you guys.
Another throwback to what we were talking about yesterday, or the day before.
Literally
we were talking
a throwback.
What a throwback! Well, this is there you go. Luke is off in hiding by himself, and I think. If I was going off into exile into hiding, I would have brought a medical droid, because who knows, you're gonna need every once in a while. You're just gonna need something, especially if you're going there to grow older. You're just gonna need medical attention every once in a while. So I would totally have brought a nice quiet medical droid. Nothing too talky. Nothing like encouraging you to you should really get more exercise, sir. No. Just sit there under the couch, and if I need you, I'll call you.
You just keep them deactivated until you need them.
Right. Well, then it's got to do all kinds of updates. It's got to like, oh, hang on, downloading the new AMA.
While you're slowly bleed to death.
Yeah.
Right. You wait for the updates.
Do you want to be notified about?
Right.
You have to accept the cookies. Oh my God.
Accept the cookies. So the throwback, very controversial moment where Luke Skywalker takes this lightsaber. The last movie was all about tracking it down and we're fighting over it. And here he undermines our expectations and throws it back over his shoulder. What's the panel? What are your thoughts on that? I'll go on a limb. I thought I liked it.
Sure. I was okay with it. I picture Rey going and looking for it, though. Because it belongs in a museum. I don't know if you guys know that. But
Wrong show.
Wrong show.
If you bury it in the sand for 1,000 years. Yeah, same. I Star Wars always, I think when it fails, because it tries to make itself too important. It tries to take itself too seriously. So I think then that, I mean, it's a constant theme that we'll be bumping up against throughout this movie, is that kind of like, well, you can't treat this like some unimpeachable or unattainable, like, like a divine thing. It's a fun movie, and like, so building up this moment to be this like, and then she hands him the lightsaber, and it's, there should be like angels and stars, and,
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, then have him to toss it. It's like, all right, well, what's happening? What's going to go on? Then suddenly it's not. You don't know exactly what is going to happen, which is where you like to be in a movie usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also like that it echoes the first appearance of a Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, because if you remember, when we first met Yoda, he was pretending to be like a crazy guy who was like friends with Yoda and stuff. Minch. So I like that it kind of evokes that, like, you're approaching something with big reverence and an idea, and then the Jedi Master himself is the one doing the, like, deflation
making weird
of that,
looking soup and,
of that myth. Yeah. If anything, I wish Luke was even more kooky, and although I guess we shortly do see him drink out of the teat of a sea siren. So
I like the idea that like Rey shows up and Luke's like totally has like ripped that off from Yoda. She's like, oh, you're looking for Skywalker. He's like, Master Skywalker, we need your help. The Resistance is like, oh, well, maybe we'll go find Luke Skywalker. And he's like, no, I need, Leia sent me to come get you. We need to go. And he's like,
ooh, powerful Jedi, isn't Leia?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people did not seem to really like the throwing of the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Well, they've canonized it, and they've, they think it. Yeah. I mean, he can make another one.
It's like, I'm trying to think of what the real world equivalent possession wise, kind of like, if we had what's the equivalent of somebody like if I had a watch that my father gave me, and then 30 years ago I slipped off my hand and fell down a reactor shaft while I was on vacation, and then 30 years later, somebody I've never met, I'm in hiding, I'm off, I've retired, and somebody comes back, and just some stranger I've never met just comes up to me and just says nothing, but is holding out this watch that I lost. Like, would I immediately be like, oh, it's my watch? Like, hey, like,
from 30,
or would I be like,
years ago.
Who are you?
I think the analogy is more like your dad is Stalin.
Right.
And has given you a watch, and you have abandoned that watch. And then someone finds you 30 years later and says, oh, here's that watch. And you're like, no, I hated this guy, and I got to throw away this watch. And so I think it's more that. Because I think that what he's doing is he's rejecting the role that lightsaber represented, right? Yeah. He's like, no, I don't want to be the lightsaber guy anymore. I don't want to. This is a world that I ran away from, and I freaking love Luke Skywalker in this movie so much, because he's more mature, yet he's still whiny.
Well, this movie especially.
Yeah. So I mean, and A New Hope, like, he's the same guy. Like, that's what I love about the character development. He's a more mature, more polished, more accomplished, more, and more willing to take, responsibility. But underneath it all is that whiny kid who never, he's like, it's never enough, or I've never
take the
enough.
boy out of Tatooine.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry that I'm not doing the final scene with him, because I love that too so much.
Well, maybe we'll hold you to that and drag you back here.
Oh, maybe a year from now.
Right.
But yeah, is there any?
You think you would be, if somebody just kind of like, I don't know. I guess the Stalin thing makes sense. I always just assumed that it was him rejecting being a Jedi, that Jedi life, as they say, but not. I hadn't even thought about the extra layer of like, oh no, I'm throwing away. Like, this not only represents being a Jedi, but this represents Darth Vader. This represents Anakin and the fall to the dark side, which then he was a party to in another exact wave of that. And so Obi-Wan giving him his father's lightsaber to be like, oh, it was pupil of mine that turned to evil, and then for Luke to be like, oh yeah, pupil turned to evil. No, like let's get rid of all of that. I hadn't thought about the depth of how much that meant to him. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I went the total opposite tact. Go ahead, Jackie.
No, go for it. What was the opposite?
I was going to say that it's almost more like if someone showed up and they handed me my portable CD player from 1998 or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, I guess that this was important to me at some point, but what am I going to do with this thing now? So,
Right.
See, that's a mature response. That seems very mature of you.
Does it have your CD in it still? If it has a CD in it still, that might be, a good...
Has it got the soundtrack to the Big Easy in it?
Yeah, I know.
Then
You might
Spin Doctors, pocket full of kryptonite.
There you go. That might bring you back.
And,
So, well, Jackie, thanks for joining us this week. Any other thoughts about The Last Jedi you wanted to get out?
well, I just I thought the Beehive Town. I'm kind of glad I'm not in the next 5 minutes because it has the problems that it's George Lucas is a very silly guy, man. It's I'm waiting for him to recut.
Wait, are you blaming him for the frog
For the Beehive?
people?
No, I think I would blame him only because everyone knows what he likes.
Mm-hmm.
He likes the characters with the long trunks and the
Little people.
the goofy looks to him. They're like, well, let's stay true to, and to some of that, I'm completely on board, and to other parts of it becomes too much. But I would say this is the whole thing about, I was just going to say the part of Luke where that takes place in the TV show The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
This is after 4, I believe, but before 5, before Empire is when The Mandalorian takes place.
No, The Mandalorian is like 9 years after Return of the Jedi.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the Empire's already fallen and so on.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it? Okay. Well, but it's when Luke is actively being a Jedi. He's actively being a meddler. He's got a nose problem. He's doing the whole thing, and you can see that scene that we just saw after seeing that scene of how much work as the Last Jedi that he had to do for so long. That it also makes sense that he's like, no, I'm retired. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And
That's
a
all
whole new appreciation for this. It's not just a funny scene.
Yeah, it's got. There's more depth to it that I think is awesome. I like when they add another layer to Leia, to Han, to what the characters we know and love. If they could do that with Chewbacca, that'd be great. But unfortunately, Chewbacca speaks in sound effects.
Well, you got to rewatch the holiday special. There's a lot of layers there about his family love and his relationship with his father-in-law.
Yes, I did see that. It's
listeners, thank you for sticking with us this week. And thanks again, Jackie. We will we'll all continue this. Not Jackie. We'll have a new guest next week. And if you want to fill us in, you want to keep up with Star Wars Minute over the weekend, why not go to StarWarsMinute.com/Patreon, Patreon, and you can hear our weekend edition episodes, which are kind of like this, except less directed and more rambling. So if that sounds like fun to you, go there, support us, and otherwise we'll see you on Monday for a brand new episode of Star Wars Minute.